program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
What am I doing with my morning, you may ask? Well, as you can see, following 3 wild leopards down the road. This is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning and welcome on our sunrise safari, where the royal family has treated us with a very, very special surprise. I was not expecting to see them here. Not in the slightest. And there we go, Karula glancing across at something to the west of her. And what a beautiful way to start off our morning, that with 3 surprise leopards that just happened to be right next to us as we drove past. Lovely. Very good morning to you all. My name is Jamie, and this morning Brian is on camera with me. Brian, that was a nice surprise, wasn't it? It was a very nice surprise. A lovely surprise for all of us. We are coming to you live from a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And as we watch over the next few hours the various wildlife creatures that this continent has to offer, country, let's be honest, we don't quite have the scope of saying continent just yet. You can send through your questions, and you can do that using a hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or email through to questions@WildEarthTV. Karula on the left, Xongile in the middle, and their giant boy on the right. Hey boy, you're huge. You're bigger than your mom now. And Xongile's feet are also huge, I've noticed. There you go. All right. Hosana, you're going to get separated. I see what she's looking at. There's Impala over there. I'm just going to take my lights off. It's just light enough now. They haven't seen her. They think they've seen her. There's an alertness to them, but they haven't quite registered exactly what's walking down the road past them. The reason I'm so surprised to see Karula, of course, is because yesterday she was on an adult male Impala kill on Buffelshoek, which is the property to the north of us. Oh, spotted. Impala alarm call. Yes, you've been seen. Unfortunately, seeing her now, whilst it is lovely for us, means that she didn't keep it. Must be that the hyenas stole it. I doubt it was Ribbon, though. She was too busy coming into camp. Coming to say good morning to us all. Tayla had the longest conversation with that hyena this morning. It was utterly absurd. She must have been about 15 feet away from it, talking to it. Impala are half-heartedly alarm calling because they're not quite sure. Helps to be a leopard. Well, actually, it helps to be a leopard at this time of year because of the height of the grass. And they basically vanish. Look, she's going in. She's thinking about it. How are you going to manage that, Karula? They've seen you. The girl? Leading the cubs off. First comes Mum. Then comes Son. Oh, alarm calls now everywhere. You can see the flick of the white tail raised in acknowledgement that they've been spotted. No point trying to hide now. And everywhere the Impala are going off like popcorn popping. And a wildebeest thrown in for good measure. To you two. Okay. Let's not let them disappear too far into the grass. Now they've been spotted. Look at this. Look at this wildebeest. What is this? What are they doing? A leopard isn't really a threat to a wildebeest unless you're talking about a male leopard and a wildebeest calf. And he's just watching. Okay, let's go in. Or else they are going to vanish. They have already vanished. Marvellous. Straight ahead of us. Oh yes, there we go. I see the movement. Times have changed, Brian. Everything's got so long. Let's go this way. I don't want to accidentally drive right up close to one of the cubs sleeping in this grass. Are they lying down now? Yes. No, there we go. We've got 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Oh, Xongile up a tree. I'd love to be a leopard for a day just to feel what that agility feels like. And that ability to climb and leap and jump and run. Not that I can't do all of those things, but not quite as well as even Xongile can. Maybe as well as Hosana can. Just because he has a tendency to fall down. Watching the footage from Brent's sighting yesterday and having such a giggle at the antics of these two. They really were being hilarious. Here's Karula. Wait, where's number 3? Okay, let's catch up with him. Here we go. Karula and Hosana on the move. I feel like Karula's trekked far over the last few days. Between her sudden random trip into Arathusa, where she must have had a kill. It's the only thing I can think of. Oh, these two are going to play behind the bush. Don't worry, Rusty. Spare parts are coming. Then she went all the way into Buffelshoek Hook, and now she's all the way back here. Peekaboo, we see you. There was some distinct bending of that branch as she sat down on it. Of course, our beloved cubs, exceptionally well known for their ability to pick the worst possible branch for them to walk on. Or sleep on. Both of them. I've seen both of them do it. Is there a kill there? Is that why she's brought them here? I can't see anything. What a pretty sight. No, I'm sure if there were a kill he would have started eating already. Up, up. What a lovely place to plonk yourself, Xongile. Good morning to Shelley, sending through our first question of the morning. Shelley, you want to know whether or not the members of the royal family would band together to make a kill. No, probably not. Look, it is occasionally a joint effort, as we saw with Karula catching that Impala. and then Hosana taking over and killing it. And there are a few recorded cases of leopards hunting together, but really they're not social hunters. They're not group hunters. They are solitary hunters. And even those examples that you get where the female cheetah bring back live kill for the cubs, that doesn't occur with, or at least lets them play with the live kill. That doesn't really happen with leopards. So no, they wouldn't band together to make a kill. And they wouldn't coordinate as a group. They just don't really know how, to be honest. Leopards are not particularly happy when it comes to time to socialize. Obviously, a mother and a cubs is separate to another situation, but really they quite like to be on their own. I always find that even when they're mating, they seem to resent each other's company thoroughly. Here's Hosana, a blur of spots in the trees. Wait for the cubs to pop down and provide us with some more entertainment. However, there is somebody who hasn't said good morning to you yet. Let's head across to Tayla.
Good morning, everybody. And isn't that fantastic to start the drive with the royal family on this fine Tuesday morning? Well, it's Tuesday now here in South Africa. My name is Tayla, and on camera with me this morning is Craig, Batman. And we have changed our plans slightly from what I told you in the pre-show, and the reason why is, seeing as though Jamie has spotted the royal family, I thought that we would quickly come and do a boundary patrol and just see if the Nkuhumas haven't perhaps crossed north out of Arathusa. So we'll do that, and if we don't pick up on any tracks, then we will go straight back towards the hyena den, and hopefully by that time it will be light enough. There's quite a thick cloud cover today, but it's warm. It's 70°F. It's not too bad, and I suspect that the sun will eventually burn through most of this today, and then this afternoon for the sunset safari we'll all be complaining about how hot it is. I think that's what's going to happen throughout the day. But very quiet so far. I've still got my spotlight. It's not that I'm really scanning for animals. It's not working too well now. But the ground is still, it's very difficult to tell what was going on the floor because the light is so dim inside. So I just need the extra help, all the extra help that I can get to try and spot any footprints that any of the animals have left behind. No, I haven't even seen that many hyena tracks this morning. Yeah, on Pangolin track they were going up and down, so we must have just missed them. But we shall see if Ribbon has made a turn to her cubs a little bit later. We'll give her a couple more minutes to go about scavenging and looking for all sorts of goodies to eat. Ooh. Maybe we bump into Tingana. That would also be nice if Tingana would pop out. Just checking back here. Right. Now remember, you have just joined us, and we are, well, you are currently watching a live safari, and Jamie has those leopards. And if you'd like to ask us any questions, Stef is also back at work, so he'll be out in probably a short while, not too much longer now, and he's doing bushwalk. So you can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter with any questions that you have for us, or questions at WildEarthTV is another address that you can, well, send your questions to. Hang on, what's going on over here? No, it's just strange tire tread. I was hoping we could I was really hoping by now we would have picked up on some lion tracks, so perhaps they haven't moved. They didn't look like they were going to move and go anywhere last night. But I'm going to keep checking a little bit further west and all the way towards the gate, just to triple and check around those areas. I think let's go back across to Jamie now, and I wonder if those cubs have come out of the bush.
The cubs have not come out. The cubs have actually gone to sleep. Karula, on the other hand, is wide awake, and that's because she, like myself, saw two sprinting figures of hyenas running past very far away and in the sort of the tree line. And I completely lost track of where they went. There, behind the termite mound. It's going to pop out behind the termite mound. Look, she's looking at it. How on earth did it get there? There's another one over there. There's actually several of them. There's one coming out. There's about 3 of them. Heads popping out. Look at this. Look at this standoff. Karula watching. Hello, you. Oh, look how that hyena got a fright when she moved. Didn't know what she was. Whoopsie, here comes another hyena. This is interesting. Karula going up, not taking any chances. The cubs are safe and sound to my right, so I don't think we need to worry too much about them. Here comes hyena number 2. I'm pretty sure I saw a third. I saw 2 hyenas running in the opposite direction, so that means there's at least 4 here. Probably 5. Good morning. It is lovely to have you back once again. Karula watching. Nobody needs to be distressed or nervous about this sort of situation. Let's reposition so we can get both of them. Karula knows what she's doing. She's got a nice big tree. Hyena's coming to investigate her. Good morning. Cat-hyena standoff. Hyena now going straight towards where the cubs were. Again, not too concerned. Lurking. Having a jolly good sniff as to where Karula was. Glancing up at her. It knows there's nothing it can do. Don't you? Yes. Are we going to go pay a visit to the den in a little bit? Yes, we are. We're going to come and find you. Bless you, Brian. Whew. I know the feeling. Where'd she go? Oh. There goes our running hyena. And I hope we'll go to the den site. My plans were derailed by the leopard cubs and Karula. I didn't really expect to be here this morning. But I am. And where's Karula? She must have gone up higher. Let's just double check on her. Hyenas just have this innate look of mischief. Here you go, girl. Don't you look beautiful? Now, Jill, I spoke about the fact that Karula seems to be marching at the moment. You want to know what the average distance is for a leopard to travel in a day? That's a really difficult question to answer because it's so circumstantial and I'm not sure exactly where that average would fall. Probably somewhere around about 5 miles. Because there are days when they don't, well, there's actually a few days where they don't move if they've got a kill. They won't go anywhere. If they've got a nice big kill hoisted up in a tree, that could be up to 3 days, so that'll knock the average down. And there are days when they're starving and they're just not successful in terms of hunting, and then that will take the average up. 5 miles-ish, give or take. But really, honestly, it might be a bit less than that. It's a hard question to answer. But they can march. They really, really can. Same goes for lions. All of the big cats will preserve their energy. Not preserve, conserve their energy. Preserve is what you make fruit into. They'll conserve their energy as much as possible, and they're very, very good at conserving their energy, aren't they, Brian? Particularly lions with a full belly. Karula's average distance must be about 10 miles a day. I swear, she just motors everywhere. She's found a nice spot in the tree from which she can survey things. I mean, all 3 of them are looking full, but not fat. They're not bulging. Julia, she is resting in her favorite kind of tree, a marula tree. The most comfortable of all the trees if you're a leopard, because it's got these very conveniently thick branches that so often grow out to the side and then sort of form this flat surface for them to lie on, relatively flat. And of course, the added bonus, which is quite unusual out here, is that it doesn't have any thorns. Look at the expression on her face, watching where the hyenas have gone. glancing across to the east. Eyes looking so much better. It's absolutely fine. Looking absolutely healed. Once it gets a little bit lighter, we'll be able to check right up close. Let's see. Karula, can you look at us quickly? Girl? Please? Ha! No. You shall not gaze upon my face. Okay, fine. See how wet her paws are from walking through the dew? Okay. Alright, contrary. We won't examine your eye then. We'll come back and examine it in a bit. We'll go look at your cubs instead. Since you are determined to hide yourself from our cameras. Hey girl. She's just trying to find herself a comfortable spot. Tucked up against the branch. Actually doesn't look all that comfortable. Alright, should we go see the cubs? Let's go see what they're up to. I have a feeling all three of them are about to go to sleep. I just have that... They just had that look about them. That slightly relieved look to the cubs when Mom sat down. Sort of, oh good. We can go to sleep. Like all teenagers. I hear telltale signs on the radio that the bushwalk team is out and about. And you'll all be very happy to see who is about to greet you.
The Impala are about to greet you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Stef and you have just joined the bushwalk for this morning. We have just left. The clouds kept a little bit too dark for us to go out safely this morning, especially since we've just been hearing reports of leopard and lion everywhere at the moment, which is very, very good. What our plans are for today? Well, quite simply, we're just going to head out, not with our noses into the breeze because there isn't any, so we're just going to go and see where our fancy takes us this morning, to be quite honest with you. And the first thing that was noticeable was the fact that these impala were right up against one of our tower placements. It's a fenced enclosure, and I think it's because there are leopard on quarantine open area, on quarantine clearings, and these impala are very clever. They know exactly where the best place to hide is, and at the moment having a fence against your one flank would have been the best for it. Now what you can see over there is that they're all facing in the same direction. Now that could be just because of that one male that is busy walking out in front. There's an alarm call going. I think they're actually seeing those predators on the open area there. No, they haven't all seen it. Oh, the ones in the front definitely have seen it. And that is prime example of what impala do as an alarm call. Now, we quite often talk about it. We keep on telling you that that's how we find animals, is by alarm calls, and impala in particular making the snorts that they do. That is what we listen and look for. Now with impala, it's always better the devil you know, and so they will quite often, especially when it's open cover, they will walk right up to predators. And it's funny, leopard and lion tend not to target impala that can see them. They'll rather go for impala or wildebeest or buffalo, in actual fact, that can't see them at all. Now I think what we're going to do is send you over to Jamie, who's literally probably about 100 yards from me now, right on the other side of this impala herd with one of those leopard cubs.
That's very cool, Stef. I didn't realize just how close you really were. I can't see him though. However, what we can see is that Xongile has a kill. As to when that happened, how that happened, or who was responsible, your guess is as good as mine. I suspect it was Xongile herself when they entered into this particular spot. But I'm not 100% convinced. Might also have been why Karula went and lay down. Anyway, one poor hapless scrub hare has been snatched up by Xongile. And sorry for those of you that are a little bit sensitive, this might get a bit gory, since she is capable of eating the entire thing from snout to tail, and she may well do so, although at the moment she's just carrying it around like a proud kitty cat. Look what I did. Look what I got. Where should I put this? You know when a child gets a present and they're not playing with it, but they carry it around and they sort of put it in different places just to draw your attention to it? That's kind of what she's doing. Lisa, yes. I think the cubs are old enough now that they could survive if they had to on their own. They are capable of making small kills, potentially, where Hosana is concerned, capable of making big kills. Yes, I do think that they are capable of surviving on their own. I think if anything were to happen to Karula, which it won't, of course, because she's a legend, but if anything were to happen to Karula, they would be fine. Or if, for example, she were to give birth now and have a new set of cubs early, which is not going, again, I don't think is going to happen, but if she were, hypothetically, I think they'd be fine. The hardest time would probably be for Hosana. Somehow I feel as though Xongile has already got the idea of independence in her mind. Still clutching it. I don't think she wants to go onto the ground, because I don't think she wants to risk her brother stealing it. And although, actually, usually he's quite polite. In fact, all three of the royals are. They seem to sort of take their turn when it comes to feeding, and there's not been much conflict over food. But I think she's not taking that chance. She knows her brother's a big growing boy. Oh, Xongile, you're drawing attention to yourself. Although I wouldn't put it past Xongile to be able to thoroughly put him in his place, if the mood so struck. Cindy, yes, absolutely. Even though I mentioned that all three of them have eaten, so they've got round bellies. Already, as you can see, they've made their first kill of the morning. Karula will kill, even if she's not hungry. And that's just because leopards cannot afford to pass up the opportunity when it presents itself. So, for example, Tundi, who was on the sunset safari with Brent yesterday, I was a bit jealous, Tundi had 3 adult impala kills in one go at one point. Even when they have an existing kill that they haven't even finished yet, if they see the opportunity, they will go for it. And that's just because they can't afford to be fussy, they can't afford to pass up an opportunity, waste not, want not, and every other cliche in the book. Sorry, scrub hair. This morning was not your morning. What fascinated me about the time that we spent watching the wild dogs with a drone was just how many scrub hairs get eaten by wild dogs. Oh, they've been following Mum. Mum's now fast asleep in a marula tree. Lauren, we don't know exactly how it is that leopards communicate. We don't know exactly what the body language indicators are when a female wants to communicate to her cubs that it's time for them to stay rather than to follow her. I imagine that there's something visual about it. There might even be a combination of a visual... Oh, look at the drongo. That's cool. Drongo do not lack courage in any way, shape or form, despite their size. What was I talking about? Oh yes, she might occasionally growl at them if they resist her attempts to leave them. But I think most of it is communicated visually. But there's definitely some form of communication with all of the big cats. When it's time to sit down and stay where you are, they seem to do it very well. And her cubs were so well behaved in their first few months. They didn't move more than a few, maybe a couple of yards from where she'd left them. Otherwise they played around there, but they didn't go anywhere. You can see Xongile tucking in with her carnassial shear. The molars at the back of her mouth. Bit gruesome. But a lovely breakfast, nevertheless. Oh, you are going to have some fur balls, my girl. while we are serenaded by the cacophony of crunching bones, let's go back to Tayla and find out where she is and what her plans are.
We've done a big loop. We have managed to Dugari Main. We came south along that. I'm just checking over here for some footprints. The sand is lovely and soft. And then we did Triple M. Sadly, no luck of anything crossing over, but I could be mistaken as well. The ground is so hard and this light is still so terrible. It's really making it impossible for us to spot tracks quite easy. I mean, normally at this time in the morning we don't even have the presenter light on, which is a light that sits just here, and that is even still on. So it's very gloomy. So we might go pop into the Hyena den and then continue the search for the Nkuhumas a little bit later. But that, I think, is going to be our plan, unless we pick up on some tracks on the Nkuhumas now. But I have a sad suspicion that they are not here. Because this is normally the places that they like to cross into, especially if they're going to go north. And they weren't far from the gate at all last night, and far from the boundary either. So perhaps they're still on in the same spot that they were last night on Arathusa. They're probably still sleeping there in that thicket, which wasn't the greatest spot either. I'm just checking over here. So I think there's some old hyena tracks from the other day. Oh, hello birdies. Oh no, they didn't stay. There were some fork-tailed drongos, some juveniles. I thought they were going to hang around for us, but no, they flew off. Let's see what the first bird of the morning is going to be. I can hear a bearded woodpecker. I just heard it in the distance. Let's check this dead tree for any birds. These are normally good trees to check, because they love to sort of sit up on the top. Can you hear the woodpecker? You have to listen very carefully. There it is. That is the territorial call of a bearded woodpecker. But no birds on the snobthorn. Okay, fine. We'll see. We'll try it up. We'll try the next ones. Let's see, maybe it's going to be a turtle dove. If we don't see anything else, I think we're going to have to see a dove first this morning. I thought maybe it was going to be a little bit more. And as I say that, look who flew. Let me go forward. Look who's sitting up top on the corner there. Is the tree in the way, Craig? Trying to see if... Do I need to go up, go up, up, up? Up, up. Is that as high as you can go? Ah, it flew away. Okay, it's gone. But there was a Burchell starling that very sneakily landed on the branch, and then, well, it decided to disappear. That's very naughty. Come on, birds, where are you today? It's always like this, so when it's going to be a nice day, we won't see them, but on the cold, miserable, rainy days, we see all the birds. You could see, hang on, oh no. Here's some old lion tracks I can show you. Let's go to these ones over here. Hala! Look at these footprints. So these are obviously from a big male lion, but it's very old. I mean, you can see I can break away the track here. The sand is not soft at all. So this was, well, this was put here, not put here, the lion walked here when the ground was very, very wet. So probably almost a week ago now. And obviously one of the Birminghams, or maybe even one of those Matimbas that was seen by Tristan in the evening. That could have been one of them too. But no, it seems as though Jamie's having the most luck this morning. We're not having any luck. We can't even find a bird, which is great. But we're going to keep on searching. We're going to head to the hyena den now. We'll take a stroll along that way. But let's go across to Stef now. And I wonder what he's got up his sleeve for you this morning.
That's a good question, Jamie. I also wonder what I've got up my sleeve this morning, because we're seeing some weird tracks on Philemon's Cutline. Not on Philemon's Cutline. I suppose you could call it Philemon's Cutline. It's the road that leads from Quarantine to Philemon's Dip. I don't quite know what road that is. From an extension of Weaver's Nest, probably. Why is it weird? Is that there's tracks of two civets on the road. One is going up the road, one is going down the road, and one would think that it's probably the same civet that was just chased off of quarantine, perhaps by the leopard that are on there now, or perhaps by the hyena that had been walking around on the road as well. There's hyena tracks of a large hyena, a large individual. Very difficult to say whether it's a male or female just from their tracks, except that this particular hyena has got a cub with it, one cub, not a lot of cubs. And at first I thought it was a civet, but in the end it ended up being a hyena. So I actually think that Jamie going to go and visit those hyena dens, or the hyena den site, is a clever idea. I predict there to be at least one hyena with a sub-adult cub, a cub old enough to have left the den and start to foray with an adult. Now that happens after a couple of months, probably close to about 8 months to a year. These hyena cubs, especially the older, more robust cubs of the dominant female, will leave the den earlier on and join the mother for foraging trips. But that doesn't mean that the mom isn't responsible for keeping these youngsters fed. She will look after those babies for almost 2 years. Now that is unusual amongst the predators. Leopard, for instance, are about a year, plus minus a year for male and for female cubs. Slightly longer with females, slightly shorter for males. Lion, it's also around about that time female lions become active members of the pride hunting wise at probably about a year to about a year and a half. Males just end up being slobs, but they start what they start doing is they start to dominate food at kills at about a year and a half, when they get to about as heavy as what their mothers are. They can start using their weight and they can start to dominate kills, and they will stick around until they become sexually mature, and then the large male lions come in and chase them off. The pride male lions come and chase them off when their mothers start to show signs of coming into estrus again at about 2 to 2.5 years old. So just to come back to my point, is that there's lots of hyena activity that is on top of the road, heading towards the den site where Jamie's going to be visiting. So don't go anywhere. If we are lucky, we are going to be able to see some hyena activity. Oh, Tayla, excuse me, not Jamie. If we are lucky, we're going to be able to see some hyena activity at those dens. That's what I predict from the tracks anyway. What we're doing here, basically just having an amble through the bush, really. We turned off of the track. We'll come and have a look over here. Got lots of... This is what happens when you open up one of these foraging tunnels from these termites. They would have been foraging here last night and now are making a mad dash. We stepped on top of one of their tunnels, taking the roof off, and they're now making a mad dash for their holes. Here we go, you can see here. Look, they're furiously bashing their heads on the floor, the soldiers calling for help. That is also sending a very clear message through the sand to all the workers, come back, there's something big walking around over here. And this is also the time of day when the termites will stop foraging for food and go underground. Have a look at that, into their galleries. These are the harvester termites, one of the largest harvesters of vegetable matter out here. Much more vegetable matter collected by these little guys than by all the buffalo in the Kruger National Park. And now all that's left are soldiers. You see there with the big teeth? So all the workers are busy coming in now. The majority of the workers are inside there now. I just find that quite awesome. Alright, from termites, why don't we go and have a look at leopard.
I'm not quite sure how to make a connection there from termites to the leopards. I suppose busy. They're both busy, or at least Xongile is quite busy. Hosana could not be less busy if he tried. But Xongile is busy attempting to finish off her scrub hare carcass. I can only imagine that must actually be quite unappetizing. There's quite a large hair to volume ratio. Ha, get it? Hair to volume? Okay, I thought it was funny. Never mind. There's quite a lot of fur, essentially, that covers the scrub hare. Not much meat, so I don't think it's particularly pleasant to eat. However, it does have nice small bones, which means that she can crunch through them and get her calcium intake. Flies are bad this morning. And Pat, yes, on that subject, absolutely. The big cats do cough up hairballs. On quite a regular basis we see them do it. And sometimes they vomit up as well. If they've swallowed a piece or a shard of bone or hoof that they can't digest, that's a little bit too big, they'll often regurgitate it, bring it up. But they will cough up fur balls. There's also quite a large amount of fur present in their scat. So their digestive systems, unlike the hyenas that we saw earlier, are not really equipped to break down all of that hair and bone. The hyena's stomach acid is a force to be reckoned with, and essentially results in, once it comes out as scat, is basically just powdered remains. But leopards, you find all sorts of solid pieces in their scat. There you go, Yvonne. You wanted to know if they digest bone easily. No, not really. You see shards of bone. If it is a baby animal, because of course in small mammals, a lot of the bones are actually, and the sort of the end points of the bones are actually cartilage, and they take time to solidify. So if it is a young animal, then they will be able to crunch through and actually partially break down the bones that they've eaten. But for larger creatures, no. The shards of bone go in, they absorb a little bit of the calcium, and obviously get into the marrow that is in between the longer bones. And that, of course, is what they're really after. That is the truly nutritious part. And then once they've done that, it is excreted in the shards of bone in their scat. No, they're not as well equipped as hyena are to make the most of bone. And speaking of scat, we now have the complete royal collection. Isn't that a strange sentence? And Brent got Xongile, I got Hosana's scat, and of course we've definitely collected Karula's scat on multiple occasions, which means that at some point, whenever that may be, they have already been passed on to the relevant people to be passed along to Panthera, which means that at some point a DNA test will be done upon it, and we can get a better idea as to their paternity. I have to say, Hosana looks every inch like Tingana to me. Especially now, when he's completely flat. He really does look like Tingana to me. Tingana's the dominant male leopard in this area. But for our new viewers, it's always a bit of a debate with leopards as to who the dad is. The females tend to mate with as many males as they can, or as they come into contact with, just to help to ensure the safety of their cubs. I had to trick the males into thinking that the cubs are theirs regardless. The other interesting question will be, will those DNA test results show us that leopards can have different fathers from the same litter? Leopard cubs from the same litter have different fathers. That would be interesting. I think it's probably unlikely. I think it's probably possible. But I think with these two at least, it's unlikely. Xongile, baby girl, you're making life very difficult being in there. They've walked far this morning already. And Michelle, very good question coming through. Michelle wants to know whether or not if they have a large kill, how long will they feed off it? Will they stop when the meat is rotten, or does it not matter? They won't stop when it's rotten. We've seen leopards scavenging many times, and to be honest, on a muggy day here, when temperatures go up to close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, that meat goes off in a matter of hours. So they can't afford to be fussy. They're not fussy. The only two predators that are relatively fussy are wild dogs and cheetah in terms of eating fresh meat. All of the other predators, lions, leopards, hyenas, they are not bothered whether the meat is fresh and pink or tinged with green and covered in maggots. It doesn't bother them. As to how long it lasts, it depends on the size of the leopard. It depends on how hungry they are. I've seen Karula eat an entire small antelope in 45 minutes. I've seen her languish over an adult impala for 5 days. That, of course, was before the days of the cubs. And then when you've got 3 of them sharing, then it is a totally different matter, because then, of course, you've got 3 hungry mouths to feed, and 2 of them are growing. So for the cubs, it takes a little bit more hunting for Karula, because food just doesn't quite last as long. Those of you with teenagers, or who have had teenagers, and if you filled up your stock of food, went grocery shopping, it must have seemed like all of a sudden it was gone again. That's what Karula must feel like. Oh, it seems as though the creatures of Djuma have been busy this morning. Let's go and see what Stef has found.
We have found a garden orb spider having her breakfast, thank you. And it's a beetle that is hanging upside down. The spider caught the beetle and has larded it for a little bit and has now removed some of the silk covering to finish her breakfast. So she probably caught this last night sometime. She then injected it with venom to immobilize it, and then probably left it wrapped up in her web for a bit for the venom to take effect, not only to immobilize the beetle but also to start to liquefy the insides of the beetle. She then got hungry and has then retrieved her breakfast and is now sucking the liquefied contents of the beetle out of the beetle carcass, which she will discard once she's done. Just have a look at that. This is just deep summer at its best. Large spiders, webs full of prey, just absolutely fantastic. She's actually got another larded grasshopper right here as well. There you can see a grasshopper, one of the more common grasshoppers that we find here on trees and things, that she caught, injected with venom, wrapped up in silk and then left in situ right here. And she probably would have done that because grasshoppers have legs that kick, and those legs have spines on, and they can actually do some damage to a spider. I remember once watching a grasshopper and a spider having a bit of a combat with one another. The grasshopper had flown into the spider's web. The spider then tried to bite and immobilize the grasshopper, and the grasshopper was having none of it. It was kicking its back legs out and actually managed to kick off 3 of the spider's 8 legs and puncture the spider's abdomen. I didn't stick around for too long, for long enough to actually see if those puncture marks proved to be fatal to that particular spider, but I can imagine that it was doing some considerable damage to that spider. That grasshopper has got an incredibly strong kick with those long legs, a lot of leverage on those muscles, plus their spines that they've got, and I have no doubt that that poor spider succumbed to its injuries, and the grasshopper died from the envenomation. The spider eventually managed to get in for it anyway. So yeah, sometimes the prey does win. In this particular case though, I don't think this beetle's won at all. That spider that you're looking at there now, if you opened up your hand, it's probably about as big as your palm. Now Red, you've just asked me if the spider is venomous. It is to the beetle, it is not to us. So we've got 4 spiders of medical importance in this country, in South Africa, and this is not one of them. The spiders that are of medical importance to us are the black button spider, the violin spider, and the sack spider in this area, with the addition of the 6-eyed desert crab spider. How's that for a name? The 6-eyed desert crab spider in the drier western parts of the country. They live in sand, in caves. So those are the 4 spiders that are of medical importance to us. Doesn't mean that this particular spider wouldn't be able to bite me painfully. She's got quite well developed fangs. They're quite docile spiders, these particular orb-web spiders. This is the garden orb-web spider, diagnosed by that very serrated abdomen, that back part, the top part of the spider. The fact that she groups her legs in groups of 2 in an X, and then if we come out a little bit, the addition of the stabilimentum in this particular web. So this zigzag portion of her web that you can see a little bit above her and then below her as well, that zigzag web, that is called a stabilimentum. a little bit of debate as to what it's actually for. In the orb web spiders, it's not uncommon to have these quite bold additions to webs, and a lot of people think that it's so that large animals can actually see the web and avoid the web before they break it. Even though spiders can repair their webs pretty easily, these constructed webs take a long time to build, frankly, and also even though the spider does constant maintenance on it, she doesn't want to rebuild her web every time a wildebeest or a giraffe comes walking past. There's also a little bit of debate as to whether or not it adds some tensile strength to this particular web. I quite like that, and that means that the spider can absorb a much larger impact onto the web by giving it some extra elasticity, and that stabilimentum adds that extra elasticity, and therefore allowing the spider to capture and hold a much larger prey than it otherwise normally would. Now, Molly, you've just asked me a question, and for the life of me, it went in my ear from poor Louise and went straight back out again. So I'm just going to ask Louise to re-ask your question. So Molly, you asked me what is the largest prey or the biggest prey that she will kill. Molly should probably be able to catch something about the same size as what she is, to be quite honest with you. And that would be any of the flying dragonflies and any of the locusts that we have around here. She'd be able to catch and overpower any of those ones, and so about as big as what she is. So around about the size of your thumb or your forefinger if you've got small hands. So if you're a large-handed person as big as your thumb, in terms of body, that is excluding wings and legs, but if you're a small person about the same size as your forefinger, that's just the body excluding wings or legs. That's about the size of the prey that she'll be able to catch, and about the size of the largest insects that we have around here as well. And we've got an Archirodes here, this little spider right here. I'll tell you about him now. Now, Sandy, you've just asked an interesting question, which I'll answer while we're trying to focus on this little spider here. You've just asked me, once a spider has injected venom into their prey, are they immune to their own venom? Yes, they are. So the easy answer, the quick answer to that is they are absolutely immune to their own venom. They are not immune to their own silk, though, and a spider can get caught in their own silk if they're not fastidious about keeping themselves clean and well groomed. How's that? So a spider that has this ability to spin this million different varieties of mixtures of silk can actually get caught in their own web if they're not too careful. Now, that little spider that you're having a look at over there is the mercury drop spider, or Archirodes. That is the genus. There's quite a few different species here, and quite aptly named because of the fact that that bright silver abdomen, that pointed abdomen that you're having a look at there, is quite diagnostic a feature. I'm just going to ask Viam, can you actually see the back of the spider, Viam, or is it? There it is over there. And now it's a tiny little spider known as a kleptoparasite. And what that means is that rather than spin her own web, the Archirodes catches insects that go below the notice of the garden orb spider. So prey species that are a little bit too small for the larger orb web spider to actually take any notice of. And what this little spider will do is quickly snip off the strands that lead to the center of the web, therefore cutting off the communication lines to the larger spider to say that there's something caught in her web. And then this spider will then basically steal the kill from the larger spider. Now, I don't really think she steals the kill. Personally, I feel that these spiders are small enough to utilize prey that gets caught on the sticky strands of this particular spider, and is just being very clever at not having to build their own webs. And you very often find these little mercury drop spiders in the webs of these larger orb web spiders. Another thing that we can come and have a look for here is what I really... Adisa, you've asked me how long do they keep their prey on their web. That specifically relates to the temperature of the environment, I want to say there, Adisa. So excuse me taking a bit of time just to formulate my answer here. So spiders are cold-blooded, which means that their metabolism is regulated by the environmental temperature. Now, unlike us who operate at a very specific temperature, 37.5 degrees, spiders and other cold-blooded insects and reptiles, for that matter of fact, can operate in a much wider range of temperatures, but they'll still have an optimal range of temperature. So her metabolism will increase to a point, or with the environmental temperature, to a point where she'll then have to go and find some shade and cool down a little bit, or find some sun to warm up a little bit. But generally speaking, during summer, that optimal range, the spiders are in that optimal range all the time, and therefore they grow all the time. So she'll be eating as much as what she can, as long as the temperature stays within that optimal range. So if that makes any sense, as long as the temperature is right and the ambient temperature is right, the spider will eat whatever she's caught, and she'll continue to eat and continue to grow until the temperature either gets too hot or gets too cold. And eventually what will happen is, as our dry season approaches and we go into what we call winter here, they will actually get to a point where their metabolism slows down to a point that they die. And her life will come to an end. But hopefully by that stage she's actually managed to make enough energy in her body to have laid eggs, so that she can then seed the next season and the next generation of spiders. Now, one thing I do want to show you before we leave the spider to her breakfast is the attachment points of her web. This is the top line, or the top anchor. She would have spun this particular anchor line first, but just have a look at how sophisticated that anchor line is for a single thread. And that is so that she can spread the attachment points over a wider surface area, making for a much stronger contact point. And that gives her the ability then of being able to catch those large, fast-flying insects. Isn't that just amazing? Now, Mary, you've asked me, is it true that the web is very, very strong? Mary, all web spiders can produce all 7 different types of silk that spiders on the planet can produce. So she can produce all 7 different types that she can mix into an infinite amount of mixtures. And she will have very different silks to use in a variety of applications. This particular silken line, this one here that forms the top of the just watch your foot there, that forms the top of her strand, this one here, this is the strongest silk. She colors the silk with a dye that goes this golden color. In actual fact, another large spider that we found out here, the golden orb web spider, is renowned for having a very golden web. And this particular golden anchor strand is the strongest silk. Now, I can quite easily touch this without fearing to break it. So I can quite easily take my finger and actually push it down on this web. As you can see, something so tiny, that is a fraction of the thickness of a human hair even, can quite easily take the weight of my finger, pushing down substantially on it. Not only on the anchor points, but also on the web itself, without breaking it at all. Amazing, hey? So very strong. Definitely stronger than stainless steel of the same thickness. All right, what a wonderful sighting, I must be honest with you. Had lots of fun with you in this particular sighting. Looking forward to what else is out there at the moment. Though I tell you what, without further ado, why don't we send you over to Tayla, who's got some Impala to show you.
It's a massive herd of Impala, and Stef, I think it's the same herd of Impala both you and Jamie have seen, but I couldn't, well, not stop and look at it. It is beautiful. There is an abundance of Impala here. There are males, there are females, and there's one male that's actually running around, and I'm hoping he's going to come back this way and come charging into the herd. Actually, it looks like he's run over. Can you see them? He's just down there. He just caught my attention, and he ran over at quite a high speed towards this younger male. And it looks like he's gone to sort of say, hey, buddy, back off, this area has been taken. That's what he does. Let's see if that younger Impala at the back that is having a scratch and being attacked by the flies thinks he's going to challenge this male. Here we go, greeting each other. You can see that. Also acting quite submissive too. Doesn't really look like he's up for much of a fight. And just by looking at the two of them, the one on the right is clearly much larger than the one on the left. I think he's had a few more years of experience. Now, I don't know where Jamie is. I think Jamie is somewhere around here. That little box that you can see on the left there, that's from the fireside chat, just in case you're wondering. That little, you can see all the tarp and stuff. Well, wherever Karula may be, she's gone very quiet. All the animals seem to be quite relaxed. Oh, I was so sad. I thought we were going to get so much action here with the impalas chasing each other around, especially with such a big herd and out in the open. But it doesn't seem that way. It seems as though everybody's just going to stand still and carry on with their days. Okay, and that's fine. Fine, Impala. I get where you guys are going. Right, I really only came here for the action, but there seems to be no action here, so we might head toward, we are heading towards that hyena den now. Let's go down in the distance and see if we can find Ribbon and her two cubs. Right. Ooh, and it's got chilly as well. It's got very chilly. There's definitely a nip in the air now. The sun is struggling to burn through all of those clouds. We're going to head straight towards that hyena den, and hopefully Ribbon will be out and, well, not hidden away in all of this cold weather. But I think it's about time to go back to Jamie, and apparently she's sitting with Xongile.
Perfect timing, since Xongile has just finished off her breakfast and is now descending towards her brother, stopping for a quick break with her round belly. And that's just like that, an entire scrub hair has now vanished. There we go. I wonder whether or not they're going to play as... Nope, there's the answer. I was about to say they'd play in the same way they were yesterday with Brent, but it seems as though this morning's going to be a lazy morning. Stop and have a rest and digest. I've just been discussing with the other guides the fact that she probably lost her kill to a hyena. Oh, there we go. A question coming through about the paternity test, having discussed that a little bit earlier and touched upon it. Alyssa, you want to know if it's possible that Hosana and Xongile have different fathers. We don't know. It's something that has been suggested, since it is possible with domestic cats. We're not sure whether or not it does occur with leopards. That's one of the reasons why I believe they're doing this massive paternity testing of leopard cubs. It could be possible. Karula certainly mated with several different males during that, around the appropriate time. We only really saw her mating with Tingana at the point at which these cubs would have been conceived, but there were reports of her prior to that, mating with Mvula, mating with Djuma, the male up to the north. So it's impossible for us really to say until the results of the DNA test come out. There's no way to actually tell just by looking at them. But you just never know. I would be fascinated to know whether or not there are different, or the possibility of different fathers. I suspect, though, both of them have been fathered by Tingana. That would be my guess, just in terms of timing and the amount of time that Karula spent mating with Tingana. He's also most likely the father of Shadow's cubs, and probably the father of Tundi's cub. He's certainly ensured his genetic line. It's always fascinating watching these cubs grow up and establish themselves. Look at him. I think he's trying to decide whether or not he wants to actually go and play with her or just actually wants to sleep. One of my favourite sightings with these two was the one where he was asleep in the rhino midden and Xongile wanted to come and play with him, and he... Oh! That was sudden. I don't think your sister's left you any, mister. Sorry. Sorry to tell you. He's gone up to investigate. Nope, nothing for you there. Shame. Such a look of disappointment. Maybe she left something for me here. Maybe there's a scrap that I can collect. You're so round-bellied. Did you eat lots of Impala last night? You and your massive feet. I'm just going to lick this branch. Maybe there's a little bit of blood here that I can lap up. He does. Is that a cut or is that... What is that on the tip of his nose? What did you do to yourself? Does look like a cut. Did you fall out of a tree by any chance, or did your sister do that to you? Brent did say that at one point she got very cross with him, and she actually turned around and smacked him quite hard, and her dew claw got stuck in his face. I wonder if that wasn't then. Generally, they tend to hold their punches when they fight with each other. They're not claws fully extended, not biting hard, but they are, of course, capable of causing injury. Those claws are sharp. Sorry, boy. Nothing for you. Going to go find himself a really uncomfortable place to lie, just because that's what he likes doing. Tucking himself in there behind the leaves. There we go. I think, let's just see if he lies down. If he lies down, then we'll go and we'll follow Xongile towards Mum. He's having a jolly good head rub. I can hear a squirrel alarm calling in the same tree that Karula's in, but very half-heartedly. Doesn't really want to draw attention to itself. Here we go. We're about to see another graceful, dainty descent from Hosana. Sorry everybody, I'm just focusing on what's happening with the Game Drive channel at the moment and the other guides in this area. I was looking at Brent's photos yesterday and the two of them fighting together, just to get an idea of the two of them size comparison. Edward, I still think Xongile is going to do quite a lot of growing. Hosana very much outpaced her, and obviously as the male, he's going to be larger than her. But I've looked at the size of her feet. Her feet are basically as big as Karula's, possibly even almost a little bit larger, I wanted to say. I think she's still got quite a bit of growing to do. I suspect she's going to be bigger than Karula herself. Obviously, it's impossible to say. It's like human beings. There are individuals that grow at different rates and grow to different sizes. Karula's she's sort of medium-sized leopard. Actually, I wouldn't call her small. She's a sort of medium-sized leopard. And both Shadow and Tundi, I have no idea about Shinvinzi, obviously, because I haven't seen her. I've never seen her. But Shadow and Tundi are roughly the same size. It will be interesting to see whether or not Xongile outgrows her mum. Hosana's already there. He's bigger than her and he's heavier than her. I spoke to Tayla this morning and we discussed the possibility of her going to see what was happening at the hyena den. I hope that those cubs have come out to greet her. Let's go and find out.
You are correct, Jamie. I have not read me. I suppose there's an apology present from Ribbon, who was harassing us at camp this morning. But her two little darling cubs, well, they're just fighting over who is going to suckle. and it is very, very entertaining. And it's actually quite a difficult spot over here because there's not much of a gap to sort of see these little cubs. We'll stick in this spot for just a little bit, and then we might try and reposition around and see if we can get a gap through some of these trees and look at Ribbon sort of from the front on. But when we arrived, the little cubs were up, but it might have been because they heard us coming. Remember, they're still getting used to vehicles, so we keep our distance from them when we limit it to one vehicle moving around this den at a time. And you can see they're not reacting to the sound of our voices anymore. I don't have to whisper like we did when we first came in here. They're very much accustomed to the sound of our voice now, which is fantastic. That's one small part done, and we can give that a tick in the habituation process of these little cubs. And then eventually they'll get used to the sound of us starting the vehicle up. And I cannot wait for the day that they decide to come over and have a look and investigate around the vehicles, because that is probably one of the most amazing things that you can experience out here on safari. And there are many amazing things, but to be sitting at a hyena den and having little hyenas come all around your vehicle to see what you are, and Mom sort of lets them and do that on their own, but I think they're a bit too young still to be venturing around. They might in the next few weeks or so get a bit braver, and they'll come right up and they'll smell the tires. They'll probably come up and try and smell my feet. They will be so curious, and I hope that they don't move far. I hope they decide that this is a very good den. And yes, this is pretty amazing, the fact that they're so relaxed only after, well, a week of really seeing them. Isn't this great? It's a lovely den. Okay, let's see if we can reposition. Let's try this out. Now, it is important that we do move around a little bit, but you also need to sit for periods of time. But you'll see when I start the engine, they are going to sit up. Oh, wow. They didn't even move this time. That's exciting. Normally they jump up and they look at you. They just pop their ears up. But that's exciting. They haven't even moved an inch. Obviously, they're very tired. As I went over a few little shrubs, they lifted their heads, but they didn't do much. Okay, now they've gone inside the den again. We'll just creep around here, and we're very, very far away from them. Oh, they get excited. They're actually squealing. Now, I know that there should be a little gap around here. Craig, I think if you can angle your camera that way for me so I can line us up nicely, because I don't know. It's such a small gap. You'll see now. There we go. Look at that. How cool is that? This is my favorite gap, except Ribbon's head is still hidden, but at least you've got a nice clear view now of these little cubs. And you'll see they'll get rough with each other, even at this age. You can see now, fighting for the best spot, not afraid to sit on top of each other like we see the lion cubs and leopard cubs doing too. I think hyena cubs are a little bit more rough though, and you would have seen it with Jamie the one morning that she spent quite some time with them, is that they'll tug each other around. They'll pull each other by their ears, by their tails, by a paw, by the scruff of the neck. Absolutely no worries, and drag each other around. And that's why you often see those patches of skin, those bald spots on the hyena cubs. It's not that it's mange. I reckon that it's just from pulling the fur out of this, out of each other. Which is, well, a pity, but I suppose that's how it goes. They are very tough animals, hyenas. KL Swift, you've asked, at what age do you no longer see siblicide in hyenas? That's a good question. You know, I've actually never seen another hyena, well, two hyenas fighting to the death almost, and of course, like you just said, you can see it around the cubs. I've never seen that. I've just read about it. Ooh, so it's a difficult one for me to answer, because I would say once they get to about 6 months, I would say they're big enough now to sort of fend for themselves, unless they would get ganged up on, which also there's a possibility. It might happen later on, but I reckon by the time that they get to about 6 months, they should be okay. And then after that, because they just start doubling in size, they grow so quickly. What you'll see in the next few months, these hyenas are going to double and triple in size before your eyes. It's always one of the most wonderful things. They go from being these tiny little black little balls of fluff to, of course, well, quite big, and then their spots start to develop too. But at the moment, you can see bellies are nice and full. So is Ribbon, so she obviously got a good meal last night. And enough to produce a bit of milk for these little ones. Hello. And Ribbon is also fast asleep. She must be exhausted. Megan, another great question from you. Do I know how much fat hyena milk contains? I don't, but I can imagine it must be an exceptional amount. Lots of proteins, lots of fat inside of that milk, especially with what hyenas are feeding on. You know, they go after bone marrow. It's one of their favorite things to feast upon. That's why they've got those strong, powerful jaws, is to crush through various animal skeletons to get that bone marrow. So I can only imagine, and bone marrow is a very good source of fat and protein, so it must be extremely rich. And I wonder if it's maybe not even more rich than something like a lion and leopard's milk that aren't getting those very, very fatty substances. They do, I suppose, when they're feeding on young animals, they're able to crush through the bones, but of course we know the hyenas specialize in this. And I'm excited. We won't stay here for too long. I don't think we need to bother her for too much. It's nice just to come and have a look, especially that these little ones are sleeping. Every time I keep starting and stopping the engine, I do bother them just a little bit, just until they get used to us. But I can't believe over the last couple of days, just already their improvement. So we'll hang around for a bit. And if they start to get active, that's fantastic. That's great. Then we'll definitely stick around for a little bit longer. But for the moment, it's important that this is a delicate process, of course, the habituation process. So we need to make sure that we are respectful to them and we don't intrude too much. Isn't this cool, though? Tim, you're wondering, when do they do their laughing call? It's the most amazing thing, Tim. It's probably one of my favorite sounds out here in Africa. And I have to say, it's normally when they get very excited or if they're nervous. So like you often see it, I've seen it, or I've heard it quite often when hyenas are coming in to scavenge or for big kills. So if a hippo or something has died, I've heard that many a times. They come running in, lots of whooping to announce, and then of course that little giggle that they let off. And then especially if they're being chased around, it's sort of it's a nervous laugh, I suppose you could call it. So they'll do that then too. But their whole body posture when they do that little cackle is really, really funny. How they sort of tuck their tails between their legs, and it almost seems like their back feet can't keep up with their front feet, and they sort of run away with their tails between their legs, like I said, and then they let off that laughter. It's really amazing. I haven't heard it since we've been here yet. But like I said, it's not a very common sound to hear. You normally see it when you're having interactions with other hyenas. So one hyena on its own, unless it's being chased maybe by a lion or a wild dog or something along those lines, you might hear it. Otherwise, they're fairly quiet animals. They don't make too much noise. The most common sound you hear is that whooping that they absolutely love to do. But none of that's happening at the moment. They are fast asleep, fast asleep. Hey guys, this is lovely. This is really, really beautiful. And even Ribbon, she looks exhausted now, and I don't blame her. Oh, sorry, Louise, can you please say that again? I just touched the connection and I lost you for a moment. Hello, welcome, thank you for watching. We were wondering if leopards would go after these hyena cubs. No, I don't think so. I think a leopard is, because it's on par with a hyena. However, I wouldn't want to take on an angry hyena mom. I think that would be very, very brave. And I think a leopard would just keep away. There's no need for it. A leopard will definitely kill other leopard cubs, and I'm sure if it stumbled across a lion den, or if these hyena cubs, I suppose, were left unattended. But I don't think it would intentionally go out searching for hyena cubs at all. If it came past here, I'm sure it would pick up that there was a lot of hyena activity around here, and that might even just deter it and put it off. But I think what we're going to do, let's have one last look at these hyena cubs. They don't seem to be doing too much. They seem just to be relaxing and just enjoying themselves. Well, let's see. Maybe they're going to play a little bit for us. But like I said, I don't want to stay here for too long. I just want to just enjoy it just until they get used to us. You can still see that they are very, very tiny. Hello, guys. And I know that there are a couple of guides who are coming in from the far east who are slowly making their way to the hyena den too. Like I said, we can have one vehicle here. But let's stick with them while they're up and moving around. Hello, little one. Oh, there you go, giving some love. And it'll be interesting to see as they grow as well, the hierarchy between the two. And if they're little girls, it's going to be really quite wonderful to see the two of them play about. And well, it'd actually be even better if one of them was a little boy, because you definitely see the sister dominating and tugging the brother around. That's always one of my favorite things. And look at those tiny little paws. Still clean. The pads look so nice and soft underneath their feet, especially when that little one lifts it up. Look there. Oh, they're so tiny. They are such lovely creatures. And then you look at mom's feet and you can see that they're well worn. Look at those nails, dirty from digging. But of course, hyenas are just not the cleanest of clean creatures. Come on, little ones, are you going to play? Are you going to go to sleep? What's your plan? Hello, little one. Well, that's my favorite one, the one that's sitting on top of mom. Is because at least she's getting a little bit active. Obviously got a bit of an energy spurt from suckling this morning. Now, Molly, you were wondering when will Ribbon wean these cubs? They've still got a long while to go. At about 6 months or so, they should stop suckling. They won't be suckling as often, maybe even a little bit later than that. But it should be around then. Hi, little one. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? They are just the most adorable creatures. The wrinkly little heads. I'm just going to nibble on mom's feet now. And they are such tough creatures even from this young. They fall over, they get back up, they dust their souls off as if nothing was wrong. But they don't seem to be in the playful, cheery mood like they normally would be. But I think Ribbon also got back late this morning. Like I said, just before we started drive, Ribbon was in camp. So she was really pushing the limits. Normally they're back in their dens at that time, just at first light. Look how curious this little one is, looking up, looking around, learning about its surrounding. Now back to sleep. I suppose it's a little bit like me. So it seems as though sleeping seems to be the common denominator at the moment. I think we might stick around here just for a couple more minutes, especially seeing as that little one is waking up a bit. But I'm going to send you across to Jamie now with the leopards who are having a royal nap.
All 3 leopards having a royal nap. And what a gorgeous image that is as a way to start off our morning. This poor squirrel, I can't help but laugh. This poor squirrel is trapped inside this hollowed out branch, and I think there's actually 2 of them. And they are terrified. And at one point, Xongile looked as though she was going to try and get inside. She couldn't quite work out how to do it without falling out of the tree. But both cubs were very interested in the sounds of the squirrel's alarm calling and rustling about. There we go. Hosana's back asleep, giving us a nice opportunity to look at his nose. What did you do to your nose, silly boy? Ouch. Ouch. That looks to me like he fell out of a tree, would be my guess. I'm not sure that's a scratch. I think that looks as though he bonked himself on the face. Again in the most uncomfortable possible spot. Imagine being that squirrel and you've got not 1 but 3 leopards outside your front door. What a thoroughly unpleasant morning it must be for that poor squirrel. And there's dangling Karula. 3 paws extended and a tail. I think this is probably how they're going to spend the rest of the morning. So we'll spend a little bit longer with them and then leave and pop back at the end of the sunrise safari, go off and see what else we can find. I don't think there's going to be much movement from these 3 rather full leopards. It's quite cool this morning though, so you never know. Karula has never been known to let a full belly stop her. She looks much better, by the way. Karula's eye looks like it's healed up. She's lost that stiffness to her walk. that she had the last time I saw her 2 days ago. The speed with which she's healed is, well, it's always astounding with animals. Scrolls. Shame. They've now sort of lost their energy when it comes to alarm calling. They're just sort of complaining. Michelle? Yes, they'll definitely run into snakes in the trees, particularly when they were cubs. And actually, I must say, Xongile and Hosana haven't really grown out of this tendency. And they like to go crawling into densely foliated bush willows, where you find all sorts of things from variegated bush snakes to boomslangs to mambas. I'm sure they've had more than their fair share of encounters with snakes. We've never seen it with Hosana and Xongile. I'm sure many of you have seen that utterly astounding sighting of the snake eagle, the black mamba, and the Antandi and her cub. I've never seen anything like that. I would have loved to have seen that in the wild, although I think I would have actually been quite nervous. It was a combination of, I guess what happened was, because the guides don't know, they only arrived after the fact, but I guess what happened was the snake eagle went for the mamba took down the snake eagle, and the two plummeted, presumably, to the ground. It was a big mamba, and then Tandi arrived on the scene and seemed to be interested in whatever was going on in a truly cat-like fashion. You know what they say about curiosity and cats, and she had a cub with her. It was quite terrifying, because a snake, something like a mamba, would be capable of killing a leopard. It doesn't often happen, though. Every now and again you hear stories of leopards dying of a snake bite. That was what the guides from the western sector suggested might have been the reason for Quetile's death. And Quetile was a female leopard that we saw occasionally right on the southern boundary of Arathusa, so sort of bordering the southern reaches of Shadow's territory. And they said that they thought that she'd been bitten by a snake, and that was why she was so unwell, and she eventually didn't make it. And there's even reports of pythons taking leopard cubs when they've been left behind by mum, especially when they're very, very small. VM said to me yesterday on bushwalk, because VM is the master of the backwards walk on bushwalk. He is such a pro at it, and he said, "What's going to happen if one day I walk backwards onto a puff adder?"